Welcome to the December 5th, 2017 City Council Policy Session. At this time, I'm calling this meeting to order, and I would like to ask any of my colleagues if they have any announcements to share. Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you. I serve as the mayor's representative on the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Road, to be highly insulted about the airport board. And I want to thank Jim Bennett and the aviation staff who are my backup, my knowledge bank. We just executed an agreement as board at Gateway to approve the Sky Bridge Master Development Plan, which is a $500 million development. It takes the whole southern portion, and it will provide cargo to Mexico. And they are going to have a customs right there that it will be cleared so that when it leaves Mesa Gateway, it will be authorized to land, and it will expedite processing. Stores that ship regularly to different airports in Mexico could have one-day delivery on their product. So that should really benefit Arizona, providing more sales for them and faster service. This week, Thursday, is Phoenix Cares. Districts 1, 2, and 3 are having a joint meeting at the Deer Valley Community Center Thursday night, December 7th at 6 p.m. Staff will be there to explain the Phoenix Cares program, dealing with the homeless, the encampments, etc. And then on Saturday at 9 o'clock, I want to invite everyone to go to the Arizona Santa Run. This is provided by 501c3 Arizona Knowledge, Empowerment, and Advocacy Group, who benefit adults and children with intellectual and physical disabilities. And it's at Adobe Dam Regional Park, 43rd Avenue at Pinnacle Peak. It's a 5K, and it's raising money for this organization. Now here's the fun part. Everyone who registers gets a Santa suit to wear in the run. And you can bring your dog, and for a small fee, the dog will be provided a Santa outfit as well. So I invite everyone to come, support this organization. I happen to know the person who's on staff, and they do great work, and have a fun time and get a Santa suit. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Williams. Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. So I also have Phoenix Cares community meeting on my list of things to promote, and I'm pretty excited about it. We did one on November 21st with District 5 and District 4, and we had quite a turnout and had a lively conversation, so I suspect we'll have the same conversation at Deer Valley Community Center on December 7th from 6 to 8. We are also having our District 3 December holiday party. It's on Tuesday, December 19th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Point Tapatio. And we're really excited about that. It's a chance for them to showcase their facility. I've also had a chance to work with the merchants along Hatcher Road, and they have formed a business alliance, and I'm very excited about it. We had a meeting on November 30th, and they're very committed to really looking forward to turning Hatcher Road around, and I hope to be in numerous meetings with them, but I think it's very encouraging for Sunny Slope that they formed this alliance. With that, that's about it.
Thank you, Councilman Valenzuela.
Thank you. The Code Phoenix Hour of Code at Tarver Learning Center will be on Saturday, December 9th. We're looking forward to that. That's between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. It's all part of celebrating National Computer Science Week. I'd like to remind the viewers and, of course, everyone who will see these minutes, only 1 in 4 schools in America offer computer science. Only 1 in 4 schools in Arizona offer computer science. And this is those important topics such as coding, these STEM topics that will help our youth gain access to ultimately gain the skills to compete for the 21st century jobs that many of which don't even exist. But it's about creating that type of talent here. We're excited about it. That's what Code Phoenix is all about. So come on out to Tarver Learning Center in Maryville on Saturday between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. And we'll expose your students, your children, to coding. I'm very excited about that. 19 North, second Saturday. It's becoming a thing. It's really exciting. Over at the 19 North Community Plaza, which is the northeast corner of 19th Avenue and Northern. My office, District 5, will be partnering up with our friends over with District 3 to just be part of the community and offer some information about the city, and of course, as always, learn about what's going on with everyone that's coming out as well. So it's really exciting to do that. On Wednesday, the 13th, December 13th, the Milwaukee Brewers will be out at Cartwright Preschool Center for some food and fun. This is an opportunity for some of the ball players to go over some of the baseball techniques with a lot of the students. This is in somewhat of a baseball mini camp, which is we need more of those types of things out in the community. The Brewers obviously just extended out in Maryville. Are very excited about that, and we want to see more of these types of activities, and that was part of the discussion. And they've been a strong partner for Maryville, and we're excited to have that partnership. And so we'll see a baseball camp next Wednesday, the 13th. And lastly, I just want to congratulate Jim Bennett, who is our aviation director. Jim was awarded the American Association of Airport Executives Distinguished Service Award on November 29th. He's a good person. We're lucky to have him as our aviation director. And, fortunately, I can say that he's not the only city employee with the City of Phoenix that's been recognized nationally. He's just the latest. And we're proud to have him as our aviation director, and he's a great reflection on all of us. So congratulations, Jim.
Councilman Nowakowski?
Thank you, Mayor. Our office partnered up with Mi Familia Vota last Saturday at the West Community Center, and it was a voter registration and also education, and they had some attorneys out there for individuals that wanted to become citizens. So I just want to thank Mi Familia Vota for all their hard work in registering people and also helping people become citizens to this great country of ours. Also, I was invited to the Angeles de Barrio by CPLC. It's a Christmas. They gave out, they had Santa Claus out there. They gave out about 3,000 toys to children. It was a great event in South Phoenix, and just want to thank CPLC for everything they do for our community and helping out those underprivileged children have a Christmas. Also, CPLC last Saturday, right on the border of my district, and actually in District 4 with the Vice Mayor, they partnered up with Kaboom with their West Side Community Center to build a beautiful playground for the children out there. And once again, thanks to Kaboom for everything they do and making our low-income areas a nice place to live and providing all these great playgrounds. I also want to thank the Parks Department and the director for what a great light parade we had this weekend. There's tons of people. I've never seen so many people out there. I think this was record-breaking, and just really want to thank our staff for all their hard work. I know that takes a lot of work, and the partnership with APS and all the other sponsors in making this a holiday tradition for the City of Phoenix, the light parade. So thank you so much. And also, congratulations to all those individuals that fought the FAA with us, and now they're going to actually sit down and plan out some new flight paths. I want to thank my colleagues, Kate Gallegos and Laura Pastor, that have been very vocal in helping fight this, and just now we're going to have the FAA sit down with us, and we need to make sure that people show up to the meetings and voice their opinions and make sure that our communities are heard. Also, Hayden Park, we had the re-grand opening. Beautiful. If you haven't had a chance to go out there, we had a great grand opening last week. There was a lot of children out there. So it's right off of 3rd Avenue and Broadway. So if you haven't had a chance to go check out that great park, come on down. And if you're downtown this weekend, Saturday or Sunday, they have the Food City Tamale Festival. You have all the different churches and nonprofit organizations that have booths, and you can try all the different types of tamales, and you can purchase them for family members for the holidays. So it's going to be this weekend, right here in front of City Hall, right down Washington Street, from Central Avenue all the way to 3rd Avenue. So come on down. And then one thing I would like to ask the city manager is that regarding South Central Light Rail Extension, we've been getting a lot of calls about meetings that are happening, and we haven't been informed about those meetings. Today, I guess there was a meeting on the Audubon light rail, what do you call that, stop? The design and all that, I guess it's completed 30%, so they wanted some community input. So we were getting calls that we didn't have any idea what that was about. Also, I guess there's a meeting tomorrow regarding the Broadway stop. So it would be great, and I'd like to find out in writing if who's invited to these meetings or who's not, because we've been having problems with stakeholders being invited to stuff. So if we're not being invited as a council member of that district, I just wonder who else isn't getting invited. So I want to make sure that those lines of communication are open and that everybody feels that they're a part of this process and nobody's left out. So I'm not sure if it's on our part or if it's on the Valley Metro's part, but I like to figure it out and have something in writing so I can actually respond back to these individuals. Thank you.
Councilman DeCiccio, do you have anything? Okay, Councilman Waring, you fine? Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, I forgot, Councilwoman Gallego.
Thank you so much. I wanted to congratulate the Public Works Department, our Chief Sustainability Officer, Mayor Stanton, and others for the big Bloomberg Philanthropies recognition we got for Reimagine Phoenix today. It's exciting to get recognition really on an international stage for what we are doing. Wanted to invite people on December 9th and 10th to the Indian Market at Pueblo Grande in District 8, and hope people will enjoy that great annual tradition. And then, unfortunately, with national events in the news, there's been a lot of attention on sexual harassment among or by elected officials. And the city attorney's office let me know that we don't have a specific policy at the city of Phoenix for elected officials. So I wanted to ask if the city attorney's office would be willing to work with my office and Councilman Waring's office on creating a policy that we could then bring forward for discussion. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's everybody. Councilman Waring, do you have anything? No? Happy holidays? Sorry. I have, happy holidays, good. I have one item, is this past Friday, we commemorated World AIDS Day, and to not only pay tribute to the countless stories, but the lives who've been affected by HIV and AIDS, but also bringing awareness to the fact that HIV remains a health issue that we still need to talk about and address. And thanks through the efforts of Fast Track Cities Ad Hoc Committee that I have the honor to co-chair with Councilman Valenzuela, we continue our efforts to educate and inform the community about resources that are available to find your status, get treatment if needed, and eliminate the stigma. So we're working towards 90-90-90-0 goals. And then finally, I just want to say, there are two things I want to say. One was this was my first time missing the Electric Light Parade. I did it because it was my niece's 21st birthday, and as a godmother, I felt many times that my family sacrifices for me being away, and this time I was going to celebrate with her. So wish you happy birthday, Alexis. And then happy holidays. I believe we won't be back till the new year, and just want to make sure that everybody is safe and is with their family and friends, and have a great holiday. Now, I am moving to, at this moment, do we have any consent action?
Vice Mayor, there are no consent items today.
Okay. Councilman Valenzuela?
Mayor, in accordance with a properly posted notice and agenda, I move that the City Council pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 38-431.02.a, meet in executive session on Tuesday, January 9th, 2018, at 1 p.m. in the East Conference Room, 12th floor of the Phoenix City Hall, 200 West Washington Street, Phoenix, Arizona.
Do I hear a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Reports and updates by the city manager. City manager, do you have any budget updates today?
Vice Mayor, the one item on the agenda today is a big budget item, so I will just wait for that.
All right, item number 1, city's pension strategy discussion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the council. This is more of a work study style session today. It is not for action, but for discussion and information. We have several slides that we'll go through. We'd like to go through those, and then we'd be happy to go back and dig into the slides at your leisure. So we're here today to discuss funding and liabilities for our 2 pension plans that the City of Phoenix employees are covered by. City of Phoenix Employee Retirement System, known as COPERS, is the system administered through the city charter for City of Phoenix civilian employees. And the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System, or PSPRS, is the system that's run statewide, governed by the legislature, that covers our City of Phoenix police officers and City of Phoenix firefighters. So we have those 2 pension plans. We've talked with you regularly over the last years about how much money we put into our budget each year for pension plans, as well as the growing liability of the plans, and especially the PSPRS plan. In June, we recommended changing the amortization of our public safety plans. That's the number of years over which we pay down the liability. And at that meeting, the council asked us to research strategies to address our unfunded liability in each of the plans. So over the summer, our Chief Financial Officer and Budget Director, who are here today, Denise Olson and Jeff Barton, have done significant research with financial experts to learn more about ways to increase the funded level of our pension plans. So today we'll talk specifically about what we learned in doing that research that you asked us to do. To be as healthy as we need them to be, and under the laws defined by the Arizona Supreme Court, our pensions simply need more money. And for that, there are a few available strategies, but no easy strategies. So we're really to a place where we've got some tough choices to make, and I want to thank the council for giving us a chance to do that in a session where we have time to do that. So thank you. We're getting into our slides here. In front of you, you have a deck of slides. The second one just talks about the agenda we'll cover today. So continuing from last June and preparing ahead for the budget process of 2018-19, we're going to give some background, address the positive impacts that pension reform has made with COPERS specifically. We want to look at the numbers and then talk about what we can do to address our funding issues. On slide 3, as we get to background, many cities and states nationally are struggling with the pension issue. Dallas, Houston, Chicago, San Jose, the state of California, Illinois, and Kentucky. Those are just a few of the ones who are dealing with this. The challenges come from a few different causes. Low investment returns over the last 20 years, changes in actuarial assumptions, such as the fact that people are living longer, so we're healthier, we're living longer, and that means the pensions have to be funded at a higher level to be able to keep up with people's life expectancy. Talking about how we amortize the unfunded liability as part of that, and other financial assumptions. The next one is pension benefits that were granted in the 1990s, but now are only just becoming understood the cost of that. So it's pension benefits that weren't fully comprehended or funded 20 plus years ago when they were added. And now, of course, the Supreme Court has said they can't be changed or diminished. And then for some cities, but not Phoenix, contributions lower than the annual required contribution rate, or known as the ARC, and we're going to be saying ARC a lot. That's the amount of money that we are told we need to put in each year to fully fund our pension. Our charter and state law require us to fully fund it, and we always have. There are some cities that have not fully funded their ARC, that have chosen to balance their budget by not fully funding it over time, and that's led to problems. But we put lines through that because that's not the case with either our COPERS or our PSPRS. But regardless, we need to continue to find solutions because a first-tier city like Phoenix has to do several things at the same time. We have to live up to commitments to our employees and retirees and pay our pension obligations. We have to provide the services the community needs, and we have to have resources to be able to hire and keep our employees. So financial institutions are watching what we're doing and that of other big cities, and so we're here today. So there is good news. We want to talk a little bit just about positive pension reform. PSPRS first implemented reform, and the most recent one took effect just about 5 months ago. So we have not seen the effects of that yet. It will take a year or so for us to really see how that works, but the voters of the state of Arizona did vote some reform in on PSPRS. And those reforms this time do reflect the court's ruling, so we don't expect legal challenge to that. The really good news on the COPERS side, as you all know, many of you lived through this and worked on it. In 2013 and 2015, voters and the council in separate actions approved reform that created Tier 2 and then Tier 3 employees, and that most recently started January 1 of 2016. And we'll see later in some of the charts, we are seeing positive impacts of that COPERS reform. It did implement the maximum reform allowed per the courts, which is good. And as you remember, the estimated savings of those reforms are $1 billion over 20 plus years of the system. But now we want to get into some of the detail, and so here to do that is our Chief Financial Officer, Denise Olson, and our Budget and Research Director, Jeff Barton. And so Jeff will start with some slides that just walk us through the baseline understanding of where we are, and then Denise will take us through some more financial information. Then we'll be happy to answer questions. Jeff?
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I'm going to take a few moments and go kind of briskly through a couple of slides that you've already seen before. The purpose and the intent of these slides is really just to remind everyone about the impact and the burden that our pension costs have placed on our operating fund. So as you look at this slide is a view of our citywide pension costs. And when I say citywide, I'm talking all funds. So that would be our general fund, our enterprise fund, special revenue, all of our different funding sources. And this slide illustrates both COPERS and PSPRS costs. The PSPRS is represented by the red bar, so that's the cost that we pay to administer our public safety pension plan. And the blue bars represent the amount of money that we fund into our civilian pension system. And what you can see from this slide, again, this is an illustration of what our pension costs have done citywide over a 10-year span of time. And you can see that our costs have gone roughly from $131 million in 07-08 to about $316 million last year. That's a $180 million increase, or 140% in 10 years. This slide, again, is looking at that same trend, but looking at just the general fund portion of our budget. So if you look at this slide, you also see our general fund pension costs for COPERS and PSPRS. The blue is COPERS, and the red is PSPRS. And on this slide, you see that our pension cost went from roughly $95 million in the general fund in 07-08 to about $235 million last fiscal year. One thing I'd like to point out in this slide, and you'll see it a little more clearly in the next slide, is the actual impact of that pension reform that Ed mentioned. You can actually see where in the blue bar, the COPERS cost, you can see a rather modest increase on that versus the drastic increase that you see on the PSPRS, or the red bars on top. This slide is one that we presented to you back in February of 2017. This is from our 5-year forecast. So based on the information that we had at the time, our pension rates that we were provided to us by both COPERS and PSPRS, as well as our own analysis on what payroll, putting those two things together, we got a picture of what the pension costs were going to do through fiscal year 21-22. Last year's pension cost came in at roughly, looking at that chart, about $235 million to the general fund. And if you look at the general fund portion of COPERS, which is that blue on 1617, that was about $86 million last year. And our costs for PSPRS last year were roughly $150 million. When you look at the blue bar, or the bar in the 1718 column, that represents roughly a $59 million increase. It was a $1 million increase to COPERS and roughly a $58 million increase to PSPRS.
Jeff, I have a question on that. Is that based on current employee numbers, or I know we have projected we're going to be increasing police officers?
That would be
over
built
period.
into that number, so
it's built
yes,
in.
that's built
Okay,
in.
thank you.
And again, Councilwoman, this represents the information that we had last year at the time we were projecting our payroll. So that would have included all the hiring that we had anticipated on doing. And again, what you see on this chart, you can look again, you can see the impact that pension reform is having on COPERS. So we do have a modest increase over the 5 fiscal years that you see there, going from $86 million in the blue bars to roughly $100 million in COPERS cost over the next 5 fiscal years. But when you look at the PSPRS costs, you see them going from roughly $150 million to $235 million by the end of fiscal year 21-22. And so that's what we're here to talk to you about today, and the pressure that it's placed on our general fund budget. So another way to look at our pension costs, because again, we spent a great deal of time over the last couple of months talking to you about pension, is to compare the pension growth to that of another indicator. And what other indicator to compare them to but general fund revenue growth. So this slide does that for us. So between 07-08 and 16-17, our general fund revenue, it grew by roughly $70 million, almost $71 million. That's a 7% increase on overall revenue for the general fund throughout those 10 fiscal years. And last year, it was a banner year, so that's solid growth. That's the most revenue last year that we had in the history of the city of Phoenix, $1.1 billion in general fund revenue. That's a great thing. However, when you look at the growth in our pension costs, it far outpaces that of our general fund revenue growth. So almost a 2-to-1 ratio that you see there. So our pension cost in that same span of time grew by about $127 million, roughly 140% relative compared to our general fund revenue costs. And with that, I'll turn it over to Denise, and she will carry us through the rest of the presentation.
So thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the council. So now we're going to talk about the total unfunded net pension liabilities. And what this represents is the amount that the city owes for our pension programs for both current employees and also for retirees. So first we want to show the blue bars, which represents the COPERS net pension liabilities. And again, as Jeff mentioned, over the last 10 years, we have seen significant increases in our net pension liabilities. It was about $500 million in 2007, 2008, and it has grown to a high of about $1.8 billion in 2015-16. However, the good news here is in 2016-17, we did see a slight decrease in our net pension liabilities. As you have heard, pension reform is kicking in on the COPERS system, so we're starting to see the impacts of that. When we look at PSPRS, this has had significant increases in the unfunded net pension liabilities. Again, we were paying roughly about $800 million in 2007, 2008. Now we're up to about $2.8 billion at the end of 2017. So what we are hoping is going into the future, as the PSPRS reform kicks in, we'll also see these red bars starting to decrease. But I do want to point out that as of the end of 2017, our total net pension liabilities is about $4.5 billion. So now let's look at the flip side of that, which is our funding percents. So first, the green represents fire, the red represents police. And you can see that in 2007, 2008, we were roughly 70% funded. That has decreased to 2016-17 to about 40% funded for PSPRS. When we look at the COPERS plan in 2007-8, which was 10 years ago, we were almost at 80% funded. And now you can see a slight increase this last year. We're up to 57% funded, after we hit a low of 53% funded in 2015-16. However, even though we do have some good news with those lines curving up a little bit, when you look at other large public entities, the median is about 62% funded.
Denise, Councilman Waring has a question.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but to this point, I guess I am now. I wasn't willing to wait, but I appreciate it, Mayor. So the 40% threshold is considered a critical one, correct? I mean, at least that's, but what's the magic of that? What happens if you go below it? And at what point can't you pay your bills? Does anybody know?
Yes, Vice Mayor, Councilman Waring, members of the council. Because we have the rules in place that we have to pay 100% of the ARC, in the foreseeable future, we'll be able to continue to pay the benefits to our retirees. But 40% funded really starts getting to the point where you start adding to your liabilities. You won't pay those liabilities down. So there is a critical point there. We just think it's further out. But 40% is not a good thing in terms of rating agencies because your liabilities will continue to increase if you can't get a little bit higher than that.
So it's not like the stock market moving from 24,000 to 25,000, everybody gets a hat and moves on. It is definitely a demarcation point that's bigger than just an even number.
Right.
And that's
so
what I've always heard, I think, from you guys and others.
40% makes me nervous, Councilman Waring, but I do think that it's not going to be something where we can't pay our pension benefits. Really, the stress falls on our annual ARC calculations, and so the stress will fall as far as our budget. Just continuing on, ASRS, that's the state system, they're at 67%. This is as of last year. I think they're closer to 70% when you look at 2017. And of course, my goal would be at 80%. To me, this is a healthy pension plan if it's 80% funded, and this will be the point where I think the stress on resources to provide city services would not exist if we were at 80% funded. So why is this important? So increases in our net pension liabilities, again, as I was just talking about, that results in having an increase in our annual required contributions. And again, we have to pay 100% of our annual required contributions. So this limits our resources available for residents' needs. It's also going to limit our ability to finance much-needed infrastructure throughout the city because we basically have reached our capacity in terms of liabilities. And then also, as our fixed cost increase, this decreases our city's flexibility during a recession. And it does not allow us to handle any kind of downturns in the economy. So because of all of these reasons, this could negatively impact our credit rating. So let's talk about what we can do about this. We need to build on the city's history of maintaining financial stability. And as we discussed in June, water here. So as we discussed in June of 2017, we are committed to paying at least 100% of our ARC payment for each plan. We also need to adopt a balanced budget, as Jeff mentioned, and part of that budget is going to be bringing forward a 25-year amortization schedule for PSPRS. Right now, we are at a 20-year amortization schedule, so this would increase that 5 years. However, that would give us budget flexibility, and it would also allow us to establish a pension reserve fund by using the one-time savings from 2017-18, putting it into a pension reserve fund. Then we can take that pension reserve fund and help us manage through increases in ARC payments or also a downturn in the economy. So these are some of the things that we're working on now. But when we look over the long term, we need to focus on reducing that unfunded liability. And so there's 3 things that we've come up with. First, we need to find a dedicated source of funds over the long term to pay for pension programs. And this can either be an increased revenue or decreased services. We also may be able to issue pension obligation bonds if warranted. And then the last thing is we may be able to pay enterprise funds liabilities early. So this last bullet is an idea that came from our financial advisors in doing discussions with them. And so what we would do is we would work with the enterprise departments to see if we could free up some cash, and then we would pay down their pension liability. And so what this would do is the annual cost for enterprise funds would be consistent and predictable. This would also increase the percent funded for the COPERS pension plan because all of the employees in the enterprise funds are under COPERS. And we would only bring this forward if it was a win-win situation, both for the COPERS retirement plan and also for the enterprise funds. So in summary, what we need to do is continue to find ways and work on solutions to decrease our pension liabilities. And with that, I'll turn it back to the city manager.
Thank you. So for the more immediate next steps as it relates to our 2018-19 budget process, at the end of January, we'll come back with a formal plan to adopt a 25-year PSPRS amortization schedule, show the council what that means, what that impact is on the budget and on PSPRS, and then we would say that we should place any one-time savings from doing that into the pension reserve fund. In February, then, we want to have developed financial options for the enterprise fund, early liability reduction, so you have more data to evaluate that, and also be prepared if pension obligation bonds do become feasible, and that's really based on stock market conditions, and we can explain that more if there are questions. So we want to have that done in February. And then March through June, in the process that starts in March with the manager's proposed budget, we should discuss long-term dedicated resources, either through revenue or by reallocating money for services to paying down our pensions more aggressively. As we said, PSPRS reforms have begun. They began in July of 17, and the pension reform in COPERS will continue to improve overall. Each month we continue to add more tier 3 employees to the COPERS system and reduce the number of tier 1 employees to the COPERS system, which has a positive benefit to the unfunded liability and to our budget pressures. So that's a real quick overview. We've gone through this quickly. We'd be happy to go back to any slide and open the conversation and the questioning. So Vice Mayor, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Stark and then Councilman Waring.
Can we, talking about the enterprise funds, just go over the departments that are enterprise and then maybe the percentage of employees that covers? I'm trying to wrap my arms around how that'll help us, so just trying to understand the numbers.
Yeah, so Vice Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Stark, what I can tell you is there's probably about $500 to $550 million of pension liability associated with enterprise funds, okay? Which is water, wastewater, aviation, those are the big ones. We also have convention center, public works, and solid waste.
From an authorized FTE standpoint, it's roughly a 60-40 split. Roughly 60% of the employees are general fund. It's a little less than that, probably closer to 56, 57, but 60-40 is probably close.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you. So on chart, it's page 3 in this, but chart number 5, I think. The charts don't have numbers on them, but I think that's right. Yes. So if you just magically, we could snap our fingers and you were back to the 80%, how would that impact the 235.4?
Repeat your question, please.
So if you were at 80% funded instead of the 40% now, how would that affect the 235.4?
I can't answer that question specifically, and I actually don't know that Denise can, but let me explain to you the way the pension rate works.
I'm trying to figure out the relationship,
So the way the rate works, so the pension rate that we're paying today for PSPRS, for example, for police and fire, you got 67 and 63%. That rate is made up of what's called a normal cost, so that's the cost that is just your ongoing day-to-day operating piece. And then there's the piece that's related to the unfunded liability. So right now, the unfunded liability is the majority of that rate. So if your unfunded liability were smaller, your rate would be less, and therefore the rate that you pay.
So in that scenario, it would be 20% instead of 60%?
Theoretically.
Roughly,
I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a difference, but it would be drastically different than what we're paying today.
So paying that down,
It helps
if
you-
possible, is dramatically helps do more stuff that we do from the general fund.
Yes, it drastically helps you.
Any other questions? I have a question regarding enterprise funds. Are you saying you're wanting to use enterprise funds to pay the unfunded liabilities for those employees under the enterprise fund?
Yes,
Or-
Vice Mayor, that's correct. So basically, what would happen is each enterprise fund has a liability with COPERS. And so what we would do is we would pay off their liability, so then they would only have to pay for the normal cost related to pension. And so they would not have an unfunded liability on the enterprise funds. And so they would be 100% funded.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
And where in their budget does that come from?
So what happens is the budget for each employee has a pension contribution associated with it. So their pension contributions would decrease if we paid off their liability.
Right, but within the enterprise fund, what do you have to cut to be able to do that?
Where in the budget is it coming from?
So off the top of my head, one thing that we could look at doing is right now they have pay-as-you-go capital funding. So basically they pay for their projects as they go. We don't debt finance those.
Right, but that saves us money, correct?
Well, it does because we don't finance those.
Right.
But what we would end up doing is, one possibility is, instead of using that money for pay-as-you-go capital projects, we would use that money to pay down their pension liability. And then we would look at either delaying capital projects if feasible, or perhaps issuing more debt on the bond side. So we
Oh,
would
you're
issue.
just shifting,
So we'd be shifting
Liability.
the liability from a pension liability to a water revenue bond liability, just using water as an example.
well, water has a lot of infrastructure needs, and will continue to have those. And with the shortage of water, rates are gonna continue to go up. I would have a great deal of difficulty supporting that, because, I mean, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, essentially. And I just don't think that's good financial business.
So just let me clarify this a little bit. So what would happen if we use water as an example? Their annual pension cost would go down. And so then what would happen is, yes, the debt service payments on, let's just say, the revenue bonds may go up. There could be a scenario where the net is less, and so there's a benefit to the water enterprise fund. And so that's what I was saying, is we would only present this to the council if there was no adverse financial impact to, in this example, the water ratepayers.
That include reducing the number of projects that they have scheduled?
Right, so we would not want to do anything where we would adversely affect the water enterprise fund operations.
Go ahead.
Well, with the water department, I'd like to stay on that though too, because that wasn't well explained in here. It sounded like a good idea at the time, but now that I'm hearing this, I don't think it sounds like, if you're replacing debt for debt, you always want to go with the lower rate, same terms, everything else. But what you're doing is you're replacing capital for future debt. Not only are you end up costing a lot more money long-term. For example, if the cost of a water rate, or not a water rate, but a water note or water bond is 5% or 4.5%, the 7.5% is what the pension obligation is. You're saving that percentage, but what you're also doing is now increasing the obligation to that department long-term, which adds in quite a bit more. You could be even maybe 1.5 to 2 times more of the cost of that, because if you're borrowing $100 million, you may be having to pay back $150, $200 million over time on that. So it's more than just the savings that you get off that 2.5% or the savings that you're going to be getting. It's just creating a debt for a capital. I would have strong concerns with that, especially with water and some other departments that we have. I did not that wasn't well explained in here. It didn't say about creating new debt. I would have heartburn with that.
So what we would do is if we were bringing this option forward is we could actually walk the council through all of those interest comparisons between the two scenarios. We just didn't want to bring it forward at this time because we need to work through, and the market conditions are changing drastically as we speak. But there could be a case with the market where that would actually make sense and may be a benefit to the enterprise funds.
Could you please give me an example of that?
So, for example, if you put money towards COPERS, okay, so you pay down your COPERS, then that money gets deposited into the COPERS account and can earn, make that money work, so it earns an interest rate, okay? And the COPERS can invest their money in very long-term investments where they have a chance of earning a rate of 7.5% or 7.25%. Okay, so that money starts working for the water department. Then on the flip side, you would issue revenue bonds. When you issue revenue bonds for, say, the water department, they're probably going to be tax exempt. Water's got a good credit, so we may be able to issue those bonds at a very low interest rate. And so if you do a financial comparison, it may work out. But again, these are things that we would have to run the numbers, we would have to work with the water department to make sure it makes sense, and that we could prove to everybody on this council that the numbers would work out and it would be financially beneficial for both the retirement plan and for the enterprise fund. Otherwise, I would not bring it back to the council.
So there could be a risk to that.
Yes.
And then now playing with enterprise credit. Or currently, they have good credit, and we start to play with debt ratio and all the elements that come along with the credit since the general fund credit is where it's at today.
May I make that more simple for you,
I
too?
don't-
You're replacing one debt with another debt with a lower interest rate. Essentially, that's what you're doing.
Possibly, correct.
Possibly, and that's what you're going to be looking at. That makes more sense now, the way
Well,
she
right,
explained it.
yeah.
I just wanted to conceptualize it. Thanks.
Right, and just to clarify, I would
Kinda
never
like
want to bring
refinancing.
anything that would be a credit negative to one enterprise fund versus another. So that would not be a recommendation.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to thank you, Denise, and Jeff, I want to thank you as well. We're in a pretty tough situation here. I'm glad we made the changes to COPERS when we did. Obviously, we tried, and the legislature actually did a pretty good job of making a great attempt and making some much-needed changes with the PSPRS system as well. But we don't have many options here. So what we need to do is look for those types of opportunities, and you need to have that latitude to actually do the research. And as you just mentioned, bring it back to the council so that we can make an informed decision as well. So I want to thank you for that.
Sal?
So there are no cards or anything from the public at all in this? Kind of a
No,
big deal.
no, yeah.
Well, what we're seeing here is just a major crisis at the city of Phoenix dealing with pensions, and you can just see it with the charts alone. That doesn't even include total cost of retirement. This is just dealing with pensions. You add the total cost of retirement. I'd like to see if we could get a copy of what that would be. What I've seen here, and I've been at this long enough to know that when individuals use the words dedicated revenue source, they're looking at a higher tax increase. That's what you're looking here as the public. The public can barely last today with their property tax, their water bill, all the other fees that are imposed upon them. Millennials, there's no way they can ever own a home in the city of Phoenix. It's virtually impossible with all the fees that are going on with them right now and the amount of taxes that's being imposed upon them. I think that the solution is very simple. It's not complicated. Look at it, and anything we do to tell the public this is complicated is not true. This is very, very simple to solve. It's not complicated. It's a number. So deal with it and look at it as you would if it were your own home. What would a homeowner do? What a homeowner cannot do is go out there and ask for a salary increase from their employer. Every homeowner could not do that. It just doesn't work like that. Likewise, government should not be doing that either and looking at tax increases. The city of Phoenix will either look at a property tax increase, I'm just predicting this, I've been this long enough, they'll either be looking at a property tax increase, a sales tax increase, or another food tax, because that is the mentality here at the city of Phoenix. We need to change the way we think. Here's what I would recommend that we do. One, we need to look at the light rail expansion. The ones that have expanded out, the ones that are in process right now, I believe that there are enough monies there to solve a big chunk of this. Matter of fact, we've done a study within my department, within my office, to look at the light rail future expansion. That's where those monies need to come from. Second, create a real rate of return close to what Councilman Waring was talking about. The 7.25, 7.5% is not a real rate of return. We should be looking at a real number that's out there right now in the public, around 5%. That is what we should be looking at when we look at numbers. The third thing we need to be doing is to look to private financing as discussed when applicable. Fourth, look at the enterprise departments replacing debt with debt. I'm open to that. I just want to see what the numbers are. And then I think one of the last things that we need to be doing, and this is the one that really needs to happen, and Ed, you and I have had this conversation, you need to stop the bleeding. These pensions are nothing, they're gamed, the system is rigged against the public. It literally is rigged against them. You've got to stop the bleeding. Any new employee needs to be just like everybody else, like a typical taxpayer that doesn't receive a pension. Any new employee at the City of Phoenix needs to go on the same plan as everybody else. Stop the bleeding, stop the Ponzi scheme, and stop this. Otherwise, it is going to continue on. What the public is going to end up seeing is less and less services and more money is going to pension if they are not done and dealt with precisely and done right the first time. This whole thing about solving the pension crisis, everybody can basically pat themselves on the back. Essentially, it did very little, because here it is, another year, another problem, and you have another pension issue. Since 2010, I've been talking about this when David Cavazos was here. I literally said, this is not going to work. You've got to go further. You've got to make it work. And every year, every single year that goes by, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. We owe the pensions, I agree, but we have to come up with a fiscally responsible plan to do that and not take any more monies from the public. They've had enough of this. They're frustrated, they're upset. They can no longer afford to have tax increases and have this pounding on these middle-class families, because they're the ones who end up paying the tax. And if you're looking at raising taxes, dedicated sources of revenue, that is the wrong direction. We need to look at what we have today and take those monies and pay down the pension. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williams?
Thank you. Jeff, when you bring this back, I would like to have something detailing in the last year and a half the cost of additional employees, any additional programs, or anything else that has been implemented by this council. And I want to know what the cost of that is, because although we keep saying, oh, we're not going to increase our budget, we're not going to spend, we're going to hold tight, we haven't. I don't believe that. And I want to know how much to spend on that. I disagree with my peer at the end on the light rail. I think we made a commitment. The voters passed 2050, and they expect the light rail, and it does bring economic benefits to this city. We've had a lot of growth. I think it attracts people, especially the techie companies, expect that. The millennials prefer public transportation, I understand. I find it hard for many, especially my age and whatever, I'm never going to give up my car. It will be rare if I take the rail, but that's my age. My grandson and other grandsons, light rail's fun. It's easy and it's cheap. That's what they don't have to buy gas. That's the big thing I hear about. And I really believe that it is very difficult for us to be competitive and hire anybody, especially in public safety positions, if there's no pension attached. That is a huge drawing card to recruit people and get them to put their lives on the line, stay with the city, because we're not the highest paying in salaries either. And I think when you work for government, you expect the pension to compensate for what you probably could have been paid in the private sector. I think what we really, really, really need to do is, one, not raise taxes in any form, not property taxes, not sales taxes. I agree with Sal. I think people are paying the maximum they can on their property, and it goes up every year just by the 5% increase that the county assessor adds. Sales tax, we want to be competitive. I will not support a food tax, but I do think we have to come up and be creative and find new ways to find new revenue for the city. A couple of years ago, I believe that we had this conversation, and I remember the women saying, we got to go find new revenue. We have to find a way. We have some very intelligent people, not only on staff, but in this community, I think, that can brainstorm, help us come up with some new ideas so that we could look at some of those in the future. Because I think long-term, it's going to be necessary, one form or the other, and you cannot continue to raise the taxes on people as we have in the past, but we do need additional revenue because things are going to continue to go up, pensions are going to continue to be a problem, and I have a lot of concern for the future of this city. We want to maintain our streets, our safety, and the programs we have. We've got to find some new solutions. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Councilman Valenzuela and then Councilman Nowakowski.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm glad Councilwoman Williams mentioned something about Transit 2050. I mean, voters approved something, voters are expecting something, this is what they voted on, extending light rail. The answer is not taking that funding and putting it elsewhere. That is, I mean, that just the thought of it bothers me. That is deceiving the voter. That is deceiving the taxpayer when you have them vote on an idea, invest in that idea, and then take that funding and say, well, this is what we're going to decide to do with your funding. So that's certainly not the answer. And I wish it were that simple. Hey, you know what? We're just going to stop paying into this pension system and create this new pension system. But it's not that simple. And I think anyone who sits on this council should know that, because we have all jumped in to these pension discussions for several years. And I think the longer we've been on this council, the more we understand that. I've been on this council since January 3rd, 2012. I helped lead, along with Councilman Williams, on the reforms to the COBRA system. And, you know, to hear that did little to nothing is not accurate. We're saving, if I'm not mistaken, more than $1 billion over the next 23 years. And I think that if we you may have the number, Mr. Barton, I don't know if you do, but what have we saved so far by making those changes that, by the way, hold water legally?
Yeah, I don't have the actual number that we've saved, but you're correct. Over the next 23 years, $1 billion will be saved.
$1 billion, if I'm not mistaken, and I guess I'll ask for this, you can send it over to my office. If I'm not mistaken, I think we saved something like $5 million just in that first year. You know, so it's already starting to work for us. Now, I'll give a lot of credit to some state representatives and state senators, Debbie Lesko in particular, who led the effort on pension reforms for the PSPRS system, and everyone was on board to help reform some of those measures. Obviously, you know, we have a lot more work to do, but this isn't cut and dry, and I think they give the perception that all you have to do is go to a private lender and say, lend me enough money to take care of this pension debt, and we're going to stop asking the taxpayer to. I think it's disingenuous, and I think that the public deserves. The public deserves to know exactly what's going on. So we agree there, Councilman. We agree there. The public deserves to know exactly what they're paying in and what people are getting out and those types of things. And let's let the real number speak for itself. I think that and I know that the measures that we took when we reformed the COBRA system were the right measures. I know that there was discussion about going overboard. Frankly, I think part of the discussion there is doing something that would legally hold water and something that we can actually get done, and I think we've done that. We went back at it again. We made another reform. Now, again, the PSPRS system, I think that's a good graph to take a look at. The blue there is the COPERS. That's what we've already, put some attention on and things that we had the purview over. And then the red is the other. Now, I also want to make this point, because I feel like I have to make this point, and I know city staff does a good job making this point. The red there, the PSPRS, is not something that we totally control. That is a statewide pension system. You have police officers and firefighters across the state that are tied to that particular system. Now, we are on the hook for those pensions, but I think part of the answer is not to break a promise to those first responders and say you're no longer going to get the pension. And it's not that simple to just simply stop the pension system today and start with a 401 plan tomorrow. It's a great political point, but that's not the way these things work. And as I just mentioned, we've had our city staff and we've had subject matter experts time and time again who came before this council and have explained that. All of us have lots of time on our hands to do this type of research. To suggest that to the public, I think, is the wrong message. And so, we do have to get creative. I think and realistically, we have to look at those other options, enterprise funds and everything else. That's how we get creative. As far as finding more funding streams, I'll tell you what light rail is tied to. It is tied to economic development. There are numbers that show that. You look at what's happened with downtown Phoenix. We started with, I shouldn't say started, but I'll tell you when I first started in 2012, there were about 60 tech companies in downtown Phoenix. Today, more than 300 tech companies. The tax base is broadened. Our economy continues to be diversified. Those are the things, those are the funding sources that we should be looking for, when dealing with issues like this and issues as we move forward. It's not just a conversation about another tax. That's not always the answer. It is about becoming that city that people want to live in and want to start their business in, so that, again, that would broaden our tax base, and that's what we're doing here in Phoenix, and that's what we're starting to do here in downtown Phoenix. I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Councilman.
And there you heard the presentation of how the public's being gamed. It is simple. It's not complicated. It's literally looking at the resources we have today and using those resources in a better fiscally responsible way. Now, Councilman Valenzuela thought giving away taxpayer monies to developers was a great idea too, hurting education. Yeah, that was a great idea with the light rail to spend billions of dollars on a fixed system when people are now, in millennials, are using Uber. We do disagree on this. When he uses the word disingenuous, that actually means someone's telling a lie. So I would have to counter that and say that the comments he made were just not factual. They're just not true. They're very simple. To be able to solve these problems, you've got to get past that. The public has to wake up. You're being rigged. You're being gamed by the system, by these establishment individuals that are literally out there taking more money from you. This is a plan to raise taxes on you and your family when you can barely afford it. That's what's going to happen next year. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Valenzuela.
Thank you. Sal brings up these tax breaks to developers. I'll tell you, and we had this conversation before, Councilman, you've also voted to give developers tax dollars. Oh, no, not really? So it's either yes or no, Councilman.
Well,
It's
there
not
was
a
one
not really.
situation because
There
the
was that
hotel was
one
not.
time, I actually had the floor.
Out of 20
I actually have
that you
oh,
voted
out
for that gave
20,
billions of dollars
There was this one
away.
time, I actually have the floor, Councilman. So.
Well, actually, I can counter that.
So that one time, you take that one time out of it, then maybe his response is not disingenuous. Okay? But when you have that one time, and by the way, there's more than that one time, you can't come across with the message like you've never supported something like a GIPLET, because that's disingenuous. Let's not forget, these meetings are televised. They have minutes to them. You can search these meetings. You can search certain votes. And just because you say something doesn't mean that it's automatically going to be believed.
Have you ever voted against a developer giveaway?
Excuse me,
Yes.
he
Yes, I
has
have.
the floor. This is not a debate. So
So-
let's get to our point and let's move ahead.
The thought of taking revenues that are going to something like light rail after Proposition 104 was passed, after taxpayers voted for it, even though you opposed it, the voters came out and said, I want that. The thought of taking those funds and doing something else with them is a pretty rough thought. And that's something that should not be happening in this city.
Well, you haven't answered the question. Have you ever voted against a developer
Councilman
giveaway? Which you
DeCiccio.
haven't. You've always given
Councilman
away.
DeCiccio, we are,
I'm sure you'll
at
read
this
all about it in
moment-
Sal's latest-
Excuse me,
Go to my
excuse
Facebook
me,
page right now.
Listen
You'll see
to
it.
me.
It's already up.
I feel like,
I figured so.
okay,
Sal.
It's
we are
already there.
speaking
The next version
about.
of Sal's
But let
fake
me-
news is
Let me
out.
finish on the
Okay,
light rail.
I'm
Come
going
on,
to call
let's
the
have a
meeting,
Let me
sir.
finish on the light rail, though, too.
Well,
You can always take it back to
Councilman
the voters.
Nowakowski.
Okay.
We're debating on, we're talking about the light rail, so the whole Transit 2050, is there any safeguards that tax revenue actually goes towards transit only, or
Yes.
is there a possibility for us to use it for other things? I was under the impression that it was allocated for a portion for public safety on the light rail, on the extension of the light rail, and for services of the light rail only.
Vice Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, the voters have approved in 2 separate elections a total of 0.7 cent sales tax dedicated to what was on the ballot, which was bus transportation, street transportation, and light rail transit.
As we as a council, can we change that allocations at any time?
I believe that legally, it's a general fund, it's an excise tax, but the fact that it was passed on a ballot by the voters, the Phoenix City Council has never gone against Proposition 301, the other police tax, the Parks and Preserve Initiative, or the transit tax, which are all specifically dedicated to specific areas in the city's budget.
But
My
we have
question was,
the-
can we actually, as a council body here up here, can we actually allocate funds that were voted by voters to go to a certain department, certain services? Can we allocate it somewhere else within the general fund
I'll
legally?
have to ask the city attorney about that, and I don't know if he can answer that right on the fly.
Vice Mayor, members of council, while I'd have to do a little bit of research on that, my instinct is that we couldn't do that, that in essence, that any proposition passed by the voters that includes raising taxes or dedicating money to specific causes, that the money has to be spent to that cause. You'll recall in the 3PI situation, there was an allegation that some money was not used for the limited and narrow purpose specified in 3PI, and that as a result of that decision, the council decided to, I think on our advice, to pay that back, because in point of fact, the argument was made and seemed to be have merit that the money had to be used for the purpose that it was that it was voted for by the voters.
Well,
Thank you.
no one's advocating it being done that way, taking it back to the voters, letting it go that way. So it can go back to the voters. One, it can be used, if you read the initiative itself, which was an issue back then, is that it does leave a very big open gap in that initiative of how the funding can be done. So it can literally supplant and take away the street transportation funds and replace that completely if that was it. There are multiple ways if you wanted to do it that way, but that's not what I'm recommending. I'm saying that it should go back to the voters.
Here.
Okay, Councilman Nowakowski.
So with the new tax reform that's sitting in Congress right now, I know that there's an aspect about bonding. Would that be affected, would we be affected if it does pass as is?
So is that, is the question related to pension?
The pension, there was something about,
The pension obligation bonds, is
right.
that the question? So, no, my understanding of the tax reform bill that's being contemplated right now, there would be no impact to pension obligation bonds.
okay, thank you.
So I'm going to end the discussion. Thank you for the presentation. I am going to conclude the policy session. Please stay tuned. Thank you.